have pumpkins. 3 pumpkins, and I need to figure out what to do with these. If you're new to our channel, I'm Julia. I'm one half of the Canny couple, a small homestead family in rural Virginia that work every single day to merge homesteading and frugality. And we love pumpkin in our house. Now I know pumpkin is something either you love it or you hate it, and in this family we love pumpkin. Pumpkin pie, pumpkin rolls, pumpkin bread. It is a staple in our house. It's also a really good substitution. You can make in a lot of your baking recipes. You can substitute oil, a lot of different things. So I like to have pumpkin on hand. I just do. I love having pumpkin. And we got these for free. Aaron saw them as we were driving by. They were a neighbor's and they were a box for free, and we got 5. So normally I'd be canning a lot of our pumpkin to make it shelf stable because I didn't want a freezer full of pureed pumpkin again. I was like, let me can it, get it on the shelf. I would feel better about it than having a freezer full of pumpkin where it takes up a lot of space and I have to worry about it. So it's like, I'd rather it be canned up, jarred up, out of the way. And either way, I have to process it, so it's not that big of a deal to me. Now, because these aren't our pumpkins, we got them for free. When I went to cut into them, I don't know what they are. So these might have been volunteers. They could have been anything, but they are pumpkins. When I cut into them, I noticed the first one is like, gosh, this is so soft. And you could tell here, this is where I started cutting into them. And my hands are clean. And so I could tell they were much softer than what I actually needed my pumpkin to be to can. When you can a hard winter squash, it needs to be hard. It can't be a soft winter squash like a butternut. Think of something of that texture. A Hubbard is wonderful. Now with a Hubbard, it does kind of change the tint a little bit. It won't be that bright orangey color you expect, or like a light white kind of color. If you did like a white pumpkin, it's going to have a bit of a greenish tint, but it's perfectly fine. It's just the type of winter squash you're doing. But these are just so soft. They're so soft. I was like, well, these aren't going to work for canning at all. Not for us. So they'll just turn to mush, and they probably won't be safe. So I did one, and then I did the other one. I was like, I'm having the same problem. So I decided what I need to do is I need to cook these. I need to cook them, and then I need to determine what they taste like. So I could try them raw. I prefer to try them cooked. So what I'm going to do is, because we think of everything with frugality in mind, I'm actually going to cook these in the Instant Pot. All of them at once. So that's what I'm getting ready to do. I'm going to put these in the Instant Pot because these are softer. And this is something I have to think about. They're softer, so I don't want to cook these in the Instant Pot till they're soup. I want to cook these just till they're done, and I can puree them. So I'm going to cook them in the Instant Pot for 5 minutes because these are as soft as a potato. Maybe yeah, they're not like some of these squashes where I almost broke my hand just getting it apart. And I did have one squash where I did almost break my hand a few times, just trying to get the knives into the squash. And I did break a knife on one squash. One of my, it's a knife I got for my birthday or anniversary, and it just snapped right at the tang, and it should not have done that. So I want to make sure they don't turn to soup. So we're going to go 5 minutes in the Instant Pot and cook them in like 2 to 3 batches, probably 3, because this is she's a big boy. It's a big boy. It is rather large. So we're going to go ahead and get these in because we don't know how long they have been off the vine. I need to go ahead and make sure they get cooked because I don't want them to go bad. And you're like, Julia, you have more pumpkins behind you. Yes, I do. They were a gift. They were a gift, and I also have patty pan squash we'll be eating for the next few weeks. So those were also a gift. We are eating a lot of squash, and these will be canned with sweet potatoes in a batch a day till I get through. And those we will eat until they're gone. So we're going to go ahead, get this all cooked up, and when we come back, we will make a puree. We will determine what we're going to do. If we're going to put it in the freezer, but we might make pumpkin pies if it's good. I might go ahead and make my pumpkin pies and have those ready to go. Otherwise, it's going in the freezer, and I will use this up first because I really have tried to keep my freezer empty of a lot of extra vegetables, especially things that are easy to can. I've really been trying hard to keep my freezer space sacred for things that really need to go in the freezer. If I can it, I've been trying to can it. So we'll get these cooked up and see how they turn out. I'm optimistic. Hopefully these taste good, and I can go ahead and get my pumpkin pies made for the next couple of big holiday meals, because pumpkin pie in our house, we will eat it every holiday meal in our home because we really do like pumpkin pie. I like pumpkin pie. It's my favorite. I'm not a pie eater. I don't like blueberry. I don't like apple. I don't like any of it. But man, I love a pumpkin pie. Let me know in the comments below. Do you like pumpkin pie? Is it one of your favorites? And I do make a good one. It's the best homemade pie. So I'm hopeful. Except, well, I will tell you this. This is a funny story. My sister, she said, I would rather have my Grammy's homemade pumpkin pie. My Grammy does not make homemade pumpkin pie. She did not want the homemade pumpkin pie. She wanted the store-bought pumpkin pies from the freezer sections. So, but I have perfected it, and as long as I don't forget to put the sugar in, we're good. We're golden. The first year Aaron and we were together, I forgot to put the sugar in. We actually did have to go pop pumpkin pies in, and ever since then I've been very careful not to forget the sugar, and my pumpkin pies have turned out wonderful. So let's see what we can do with these, and we'll be back when they get finished cooking in the Instant Pot. Remember, 5 minutes. Let them come down naturally because it is still a little bit warm. Let them come down naturally to pressure, and we'll see what we get. So here is all the squash we ended up with. I took it out of the Instant Pot. We actually ended up doing 4 loads, and it cooked down quite a bit. And I actually lowered the amount from 4 to 5 minutes to 3 minutes. So it only took 3 minutes in the Instant Pot. You can see it has a lot of liquid here. What I've been doing is I have my little strainer clipped to this bowl, and I am not ready to process this yet. I need to take a break. Mama's tired. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. I'm going to keep draining off some of this liquid, and then we will work on this and decide what we are going to do with it. If we're going to puree it and put it in the freezer, or if we are going to go ahead and make something with it right now. So right now you can tell it's a pretty decent sized bowl. It's one of my big bowls, my big kitchen bowls, and we got quite a bit here, and I'm happy with it. So let's see what we're going to do with it. So we are going to start with the pumpkin pie. So my pumpkin pie recipe and pie crust recipe are really simple. We're also going to make a pumpkin cream cheese muffin, but we're going to start with the pie crust. And I try to cut my costs with my pie crust. So traditionally my pie crust, if I were making this not so many, so I ended up making 6 pumpkin pies, I would use just butter, but because butter is so expensive, I'm using some coconut oil that I have on hand. It's refined coconut oil, so it doesn't have that coconut flavor. And you know what? It turned out really good. So I'm putting in the coconut oil, 2 cups of coconut oil, 1 cup of butter, and it actually turned out just right. So I was able to cut my costs a little bit by using just a little bit of butter and a little bit of coconut oil. So it was 2/3 oil and 1/3 butter. And I do usually use lard, and I'm adding my salt here. And then I think I'm using my cutting tool. Oh no, I'm gonna add my sugar. I do wish I had added a little bit more sugar so it was a bit sweeter. There wasn't a lot of sweetness to this one, and now I've got my cutting tool, so this thing is amazing. Now I do not use a food processor. I know a lot of people do. I've blown up food processors with these basic recipes, including pie crust. I blew up the last one. It just stops working. It gums up. We spent like $40-50 on a really good food processor. It did not last for us. So I did a quick cut into all of my ingredients. My butter was softened. I had set it out. It was still cold, but it wasn't frozen like it was before. So I had to get a new bag of flour. And I'm going to get the rest of my flour added in and then just start cutting into this. And I have found making homemade pie crust really does work well for us. We've been doing this for years. I started with homemade pumpkin pie, and then I ventured into homemade crust. And like I said, I bought this tool after making the first one. The first one, I blew up the food processor and had to make it by hand. And I told Aaron, I said, I need something that's going to help make this easier. So I ended up getting a baking set on Amazon. And this came with it. And I'll tell you something, it was worth every penny. I think we spent like $20 in. If you do a lot of this kind of stuff by hand, these do come in handy for pie crusts and things like that, because it just cuts through it so much faster than anything else you can use. And it makes it a lot easier. You can tell I'm really pushing into it, and I couldn't do this by hand. I've done it by hand, but not for 6 pie crusts. There would be no way. And I just took my water out of the freezer, so I just had it in a glass measuring cup, and I'm just pouring out some water. And I go very slow with my water. I try to be very careful because I don't want this to be, I just need enough water to form a dough. I don't want it to be a wet dough. We're just creating it, helping it form a ball. So we're just adding enough cold water to keep it formed. So I'm just adding it slowly. And I put on a glove because I had cut my hand. Well, not my cut. I didn't really cut it. I had a cut open up on my finger, and I didn't want the Band-Aid to interfere with the with me mixing the dough, because I knew I was going to need more water for sure. And you see I pour just a little bit at a time. I'm super careful. I have over poured water before, but putting it in the freezer does help. A lot of people do ice water. I have found if you just remember to put in the freezer like an hour before, it won't be completely frozen, and that works really well. And I'm just going to muscle this and get it all mixed together. I know a lot of people have mixers and things like that. And I will tell you, I don't. I blew up the motor on my stand-up mixer, and haven't got it fixed yet. We're still trying to make a decision on what we're going to do there. I've just been doing everything by hand. And then for this, a handheld mixer really wouldn't work, or my immersion blender. So it's either the stand-up or muscles, or if you can do it in the food processor. Like I said, I tried a few times, and it just never works out for me. It's not worth it. I have a little food processor for things that I might need a food processor for, but most of the time I just tend to use my hands as much as possible, or a knife or whatever I might need. And I'm just going to get everything kind of pulled together here and kind of get it into a ball. You can tell it's tight enough that it's going to roll out into dough. And I put this in the refrigerator to wait. So now we're going to start on the pumpkin pie filling. So you can see there's some water in there. Yes, there is, and I'm okay with that. That is some pumpkin pie spice. I bought it as a shortcut. I did, and I had some salt, and I did put a lot of spice in there. I always do. So I have 3 cans of evaporated milk for making 6 pies. And you can see I did not add any eggs on this first point. I didn't add eggs because I wanted to taste it to see if it was okay. And I really didn't want to taste it with egg in it. So I held off on the eggs and added all the evaporated milk. And I'm making sure I have everything in there except for those seasonings. But you'll notice I did put in the sugar. It was the first pumpkin pie I ever made for Aaron. I forgot to add the sugar, and now I'm always really careful to make sure I get that sugar. But I did use a lot less. For 6 pumpkin pies, I only did 2 cups of sugar. And it did not need more. I'm telling you all, I have been cutting back on how much sugar I use in recipes, and it really works out well for us. So I use my immersion blender. I find it gives me the most smooth, best pumpkin puree of anything else. That immersion blender is just, if I had one blender, one mixer tool that I had in my house, this would be the one I would not give up. If I could only have one, this would be the one I would keep, because I do use it a lot, and I do feel like it does such a good job for pumpkin. It does such, I mean, it gets it so nice and so pretty. It mixes so well. It is just one of those things. And for a homemade pumpkin pie, it does wonderful. It absolutely does wonderful. Now, I do have to be careful because it did splash on me a few times. But I am working on getting it all mixed. And that to me is probably the hardest part of this, is getting all of those spices mixed in, because we do use a little bit more spices. And it did taste so good. You could tell there I was tasting it. Now, I'm adding something a little controversial here. I'm adding some flour. Yes, this is a custard pie, and most of the time, most people do not add flour to their pumpkin pies. My mom told me she saw this on a recipe once, a long time ago, and she tried it, and I have been doing it on and off since then, and I will say that my texture is much better on my custard for my pumpkin pie. It doesn't seem to, I don't have to cook it as long to set because it's got just a smidge of flour in it. I put just a spoonfuls of flour, just 3 of them, and it just seemed to work better for me. So yes, I put it in there. Don't come at me with pitchforks. I promise you, I've been doing this for years, and it does help just to have an extra spoonful of that flour. You don't end up with this soupy pumpkin pie, because that is a problem for me. That is a very big problem for me. It's one of my favorite pumpkin pies. Now we're going to start making our lining our pans, and I will do one to show you all what it looks like, but then I do turn off the camera to get through the other 5, but I did end up with 6, and they popped out of these pans like perfectly. I was shocked at how good they popped out of the pans. You can see here I'm being very, very careful of that Band-Aid. It was, I just don't want it to come off just in case. It was, I didn't grab a thumb or finger Band-Aid like I should have. So I break them in half, and then from here I'm going to break it into 3 parts and try to get them about even and make sure I can work through it. Now, I am not a pastry chef. I am a home baker, and I am very rustic when it comes to my cakes. They are not pretty. My pies are not pretty, but they're good, and that's all my family really cares about is, does it taste good? And these do. And I've got my rolling pin. And I just work on getting this spread out as thin as I can, because we don't really like a huge amount of crust. We want just enough to cover. We're going to get it as thin as we can, and then get it into the dish here in just a second. And we do grease the dish. I use some olive oil to grease it. And I have that ready on the front end. You can see here, got a little olive oil, and I'm going to take a paper towel and make sure it's really good. And it's got, I use way more oil on this than I ever do anything else. So you can tell I just lift it up and put it in there. And now I'm just going to get it pressed into the pan and make sure there's no air pockets. I get a knife and cut off the edges, because we don't want the fancy edges on the side. We just want the crust and the pumpkin. Like I said, these are not pretty pie crusts. They are rustic, and I would not tell a French chef that I'm a chef. I would never do that. But I will say I make a good pie, and my family really enjoys it, and they gobble it up, and that's what is important to me. And I don't have time to make it pretty. I tried that before. It's so time consuming that I don't feel like it's worth it. I would rather just get it done and get it into the oven. As long as it's edible, that's all that I care about. Now, I will say this squash did turn out a lot paler than what you would see like from traditional pumpkin puree, but it is beautiful, and it did turn out very good. So now we're going to make those cream cheese muffins. So you tell I didn't clean my immersion blender. It's basically the same ingredients, just has more flour in it. And we are going to add some more spices, and this is pumpkin, and I'm going to use that immersion blender and get it all mixed up. And it's got the egg in there too. And then, what am I getting now? Okay, I'm going to get my oil added. And my baking powder. I did leave out the baking soda for this, but I did add the baking powder. I'm able to taste the baking soda. So I've been kind of leaving that out on some things. Now, you can see I'm running out of sugar. So I was light on the sugar here. I actually used a mix of stevia and a mix of regular sugar. And you couldn't taste the stevia. Using the mix half and half, and I actually cut the sugar down even more. And I'm using some molasses because we don't have brown sugar. So I'm going to get all of that molasses off of the spoon. Just a smidge. It actually worked out really well. They didn't taste it. Aaron is not a stevia fan, but because I did just a little bit of the regular sugar in there, it did help. And we got that all mixed up with that immersion blender. I love it. It's just the best thing in the world. And you can see I'm going to use it again for the cream cheese because it's all going in the same thing. I do add some chocolate chips that I have made. I had left those in the refrigerator, and I was like, okay, I want to get rid of these. I'm going to throw them in here and use them up. And I get a spoon, mix it all up until it's fully incorporated. It turned out pretty. It smells amazing. I would have never have thought that chocolate chips and pumpkin pie spices went so well together, but man, they do. They just are made to go together. And again, I'm going to get this pan. This is one of my little bread loaves. Now, you can do muffins. I don't do muffins. I don't. It's not worth it to me. The cleaning of the muffin tin is a chore I refuse to do. And I put more in here than I originally wanted to. I was like, oops, let me take some out because I need to put a cream cheese layer in there. So I took some out, put a cream cheese layer in there after I get it made. And this cream cheese layer I use is for everything. It is cream cheese, a bar, 8-ounce bar of cream cheese, an egg, some sugar, some vanilla, and then you can also add some seasoning like blueberry, some berries in this too. It is spectacular. It is a hit. No matter what you put it on. This is what I use when I make homemade like crescent rolls, breakfast rolls, things like that, like Danishes. It is wonderful. It bakes up so pretty and so well, and it tastes divine. And this turned out really good. My little one didn't think she was going. We didn't think she was going to eat it. And Aaron's like, "Yeah, this is really good this time." I give it a quick swirl, and then I add the rest of this to the top, the pumpkin and chocolate chip batter. And this was just a really great way to use up some free pumpkins that we got. It was just a wonderful way we used them, and it worked out well. It filled my freezer and, filled our bellies because we're eating cheesecake muffins for breakfast and we're eating pumpkin pies for dessert. So you can't beat that. And here's the final product. So we have all of our pumpkin pies here. We ended up with 6 pumpkin pies, 6 beautiful pumpkin pies. My house smells divine. And we also ended up with a pumpkin cheesecake loaf. It's still a little hot. So here it is. Normally I would make these into muffins. This time I decided to do cheesecake, and I'll show you the pies here. Beautiful. 2 of them got a little bit more done than I normally would want them, but they did turn out really, really well. Really pretty. They're just perfect. They smell wonderful. I'm really happy with them. They're a little lighter than I would normally have with my pumpkin pies. My pumpkin pies, if you get the canned pumpkin, they're going to be a little bit darker because that pumpkin's a much brighter orange, but they're fine, and it tasted wonderful, so I can't wait to eat these. And Aaron said it smelled good, and it's going to be exciting because we love pumpkin pie in our house. So I've got these. I'm going to get 4 of them in the freezer. This week we'll probably have pumpkin pie for dessert. I don't know. We'll see how many I get in the freezer. I'm going to at least get 4 in the freezer for upcoming holiday meals, and that's one thing I don't have to worry about because pumpkin pie is like always one of those things that I wait till the last minute, and it takes forever in the oven. It does. It takes me forever. So I prefer to get it out of the way, get it done, put them in the freezer. They'll be just fine and ready to eat in a couple of months. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. And I made all of this from some free pumpkins, 5 free pumpkins that we had, so I'm pretty happy. So let me know in the comments below, what are you making? Are you doing anything with free food? Did you get a score like that, or do you make your pumpkin pies from scratch? What do you do? Let me know in the comments below. Check out our link tree where you see all of our other content, and as always, thank you for joining us on The Candy Couple, where we work hard, live simple, and enjoy life. Have a wonderful day.